Welcome to the high place. Once again. Whew. Misjudged, or I didn't look closely enough at the weather today. So I got caught in a storm up here. Pretty powerful storm. I'm on the other side of it, I think. The main part of the front, the leading edge of the front, passed over while I was making my prayers in the altar, the great altar of healing and freedom, the great altar of Hanumanji. And I started hearing this clicking. Click, 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 click. And I was looking at my feet because I felt like it was coming from the bottom of my feet. And I'm looking around, and I move, and then I stand still, and click, 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 click again, bottom of my feet. And I look over, and a lot of times, these little plastic water bottles. I have these 500 milliliter water bottles, and sometimes the pressure, kind of makes them click, and I was looking at, and it was clicking, but it was also clicking under my feet. And then I felt like a little shock on my hand, and the promontory here, I'm up probably about, I forget what the elevation is on the top of this. I think it's 2,000, 2,500 feet, and exposed, and the leading edge of this front's coming in, and it's a gnarly looking front, and I'm thinking, lightning. So I quick ducked under this little ledge, and that's where I am now. And I think the majority of the front has gone by. Interesting, very interesting. Right in the middle of my prayers, I'm calling in the four directions, and it's click, 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 and I feel it, and yeah, I don't know if what was happening, if that was the charge that you might feel before a lightning strike, or just a charge in general, like the what do they call that, static electricity, but certainly got my attention, and I got under cover. Thank God there's some cover up here, and then I had to go over, depending upon the wind direction, go and hide under some higher cover, better cover, as the rain was coming through, and there was a little bit of snow and whatnot, so it's pretty interesting. You might be hearing wind. I'm not sure how good the audio is, and I'm not sure how good the picture is, because it looks like yeah, it looks like I'm pretty in shadow, which is probably ironically appropriate. Shadow. Yeah, been a heavy duty week. Really felt the need to come out here this week. Even with the crazy weather, it's nice to be out. Just a different kind of charge, a different quality of the charge. You know, but it's really good to get out here. Seems I'm in shadow, so I'm sorry, guys. Saw a coyote that came out when I first parked. There's an expansive flat to get to the car. A couple miles maybe. Scrub brush, and I'd been out of the car for 5 minutes, and I saw him, and he was big coyote. You don't see him that big, and he looked like he was in really good shape. Like an alpha male, well fed, Usually see a lot of coyote out here, and usually they're a little more wiry, a little bit more scrawny. Maybe it's a difference between males and females, I'm not sure, but that's Heyoka medicine, right? Coyote medicine. So I was very grateful to see that. It's a good sign. Also that kind of, that Heyoka medicine's like, ooh. Not exactly sure how to take it, so be prepared. The weather was crazy today. So I made my prayers and came up, and then had that experience, making my prayers here at the altar. And then took a break for about an hour, seems like 45 minutes maybe. And so here I am, doing another talk. Not sure if it's my last one. I'm going back to New York in a couple of weeks, less than a couple of weeks. And these, as I described to you before, these can't continue when I'm down in samsara. I'm in samsara up here, obviously, but you know what I mean. Like the high place, the purifications and the prayers that allow me to come up here and pray and talk, allows for, everything to kind of settle down. Be cleaner and clearer. And when I'm down there, in the world per se, can't do that. So yeah, it's gonna be one of my last ones before I go back. Maybe I can get out here one more time. And then I'll do them again when I come out, maybe. See. But what came through this morning, actually, and it kind of like stuck with me coming out here, which was, we're under siege. And if you're listening to this, or having interest in that, in what I've been talking about over the last few months, last several months, last 10 months, since the beginning of the craziness, that we're being assaulted on all sides by some pretty powerful forces, and feels like a siege. We're in this for the long haul. This isn't going to let up. And if you have any knowledge of military jargon and military history, I'm ex-military, so I kind of know this stuff to a degree. A siege is a war of attrition. You have two opposing forces. One usually behind in a city, fortress, and the the antagonist or the opposing forces outside trying to break in or destroy or whatever. And so if the fortress is well resourced, food, water, sanitary, fuel, whatever, they can, they have a much better chance of withstanding the assault from the outside, from outside the walls. And it's important to understand the fact is energetic beings and as people on the spiritual path or the healing path, that we have to, it's really important to have a high degree or high practice of self-care. And the analogy in terms of the siege thing is usually there's a battalion or a group of soldiers or knights on the walls, repelling the invaders or standing watch, and then there's the reserves behind them who are resting, and they swap out, standing their watch, per se, rotating out, and that's really important to get rest, to be fresh, for the fight or for what is coming, and ourselves, in these times, it's the same way. I mean, I spend a lot of time online because it's my work, kind of, and, a lot of time researching and reading and posting information. I think that's really important, and sharing that across multiple networks and talking to people and whatnot. And I get attacked, for that. And sometimes it's concerned people, sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's not. There is such a thing as professionals that are sowing misinformation and disinformation, and it's their job. Anyway, but it's demoralizing, and it sucks your energy if you get caught up in that. So you have to step away and do things like this, and rest, recuperate, recharge. Boy, I felt like I was getting charged a little while ago on that altar. Yee. I don't know if that was a good charge or a bad charge. I'm going to take it as a good charge. So, I had Abdi Asadi. I think I mentioned him on every one of these. Great friend, ally, teacher. He'd hate for me to, hear me calling him teacher. He prefers ally. And I appreciate that. And on one of his podcasts, he answered one of my questions. They're supposed to be anonymous, but I'm sharing with you that he answered one of my questions. And if you looked at the text of the questions he covered, you probably know which one is mine. And he dope slapped me, which was good, because that's what he does, and that's what I need. And you need to be called up on your shit by people, and by competent people, like him. And so it was really good to be kind of get that perspective, and get tapped on the chin and be like, oh yeah, I get up on my high horse, and I have the hero complex, which comes out of the caretaker kind of complex, and it's problematic. It's based upon deep wounding, and so I have a lot of work still around that, shadow work around that. And it's important to also, I think, stay in your own power too, and mix it up even with people, like Abdi, and I don't mean mix it up physically because he tear you limb from limb, but mix it up in terms of principle, energy, interpretation, sadhana, understanding, all these things. One comes through. So there's something to be said for I identify with certain concepts that place me here, and I have an orientation towards the world that I've accepted. Peace, enlightenment, is really kind of accepting what is in the present moment, right? And I think there's this, it could be wrong, but this idea that there's the integration and the transcendence, in terms of our evolution, that we join the, all that is, the all one, non-dual, and, everything is reconciled. And I believe, that to a great degree. But I also think that there's, because if you really buy into the reincarnation thing, which I do, I mean, you've been here, good God, who knows how many times. And, I accept that there's certain characteristics within me that I glom onto, I hold on to, whether or not that's a detriment or not, it's something that I accept, So, the acceptance is key, also the acceptance that I don't know is key, the acceptance of criticism or, advice, perspective from someone like Abdi is key. was thinking about Hanuman G, which I tend to think of quite a lot. And I love one of the things that Baba Ramdas Maharaj says about Hanuman is that, Hanuman takes incarnation at the time that Ram is on earth, has manifested in form. Hanuman takes incarnation in order to serve Ram. And he is so close to Ram that he is the breath of Ram. Meaning he is so close to the formless, he's actually its breath. He's serving it as the breath serves you. Beautiful. Absolutely. Just spot on, stunning. And I was also thinking, I think Ram is on earth. You can call him God. You can call him the second coming of Christ, the Christ figure. You can call him a Buddha, him or her, you understand. Muhammad, Salam Alaikum. White buffalo calf woman, any of these great avatar forms. And for years I've had this experience and this sensation, if you want to call it that, this energetic kind of download of like Hanuman comes through. G. This energy that comes through, particularly like in sacred ceremony, but emphatic. Anchor in this realm, through me, and I think that's happening for many people. So when I say Hanuman comes through, it's like it's not Hanuman comes through strictly Barry. I think there's an aspect of divinity that is being transmitted through many of us, all of us. Talk about like the evolution of consciousness, the elevation of consciousness in this realm. That's what it feels like, that something is coming through, and it's very emphatic. And some people are in tune with it and other people aren't. And so I think one of the main reasons I put out these videos and these talks and the things that I write or whatnot is I've become more and more comfortable over the years, particularly the last decade or two, in trusting my intuition, feeling into things, and if anything, I'm putting this stuff out in such a public way, to make, to as an example, that you should be. You should also be more and more comfortable with your intuition, developing it, expressing it, following it. And this brings us back to these really dangerous times, the siege. My intuition has really been leading me for the last 10 months, a year, and I come up here and I pray, and I'm the keyboard warrior at home, and really trying to help, people understand that, this is, we live in really, really dangerous times. Do not fool yourself. And I won't go into the litany of things. I think anyone that's watching this understands what I'm talking about. So it's really hard to hold that knowing, that intuition, and hold it in a sustained way without becoming demoralized or having your energy sucked, by people that don't believe that, don't have that intuitive knowing, and who are trying to dissuade you or criticize you or project onto you or whatever. It's a lot of projection happening, and energetically, to resist the projection, It's it requires, settling into the breath, into the moment, stepping out of the madness, coming out into the wilderness if you have to, coming up on top of a mountain, almost getting struck by lightning, praying, doing your best, but do not forget the self-care component. Don't forget it. I'm not doing such a great job right now. I mean, I've been waxing and waning in terms of my sadhana. My yoga practice is, I haven't practiced for probably 3 weeks. I'm not eating as clean as I should be. So I realize these things, and I'll change these things accordingly. And get back in that old saddle with yoga and really clean diet, and work with the medicine with Kambasito, clean myself up, yeah, do my pujas, spend quality time with Ike, Ike the mighty squid, quality time with the people that I love, and it's hard, over the last year I've lost, I think, friends, whether it's directly or indirectly, whether it's because of belief systems, or my position or stance on certain things or whatnot. And, everything has a cycle and a season, and it's hard. It's really hard energetically, and emotionally it's really hard. So again, like the importance of self-care, and for me, the prayers for strength and impeccability. Even in terms of the relationships. Strength and impeccability in terms of physical, mental, emotional, energetic, spiritual systems or kleshas. Right, kleshas or kleshas? The sheaths. You understand? You will get attacked. Get attacked online, gang stalking, get attacked in your family, get attacked at work, get attacked on the street. Get attacked in sacred ceremony. And you have to be able to necessarily withstand those things, but negotiate them, because a lot of that, as Abdi so brilliantly helped me remember, is a lot of it's connected to our own wounding. And so in a way we draw those attacks to ourselves, those lessons to ourselves. What is another thing that Baba Ram Das Maharaj talked about, if you want peace, you first must become a peaceful being. And my, if you want to say, karmic orientation, but also my upbringing, my family and whatnot. I mean, we were not peaceful people. Irish stereotypes. I grew up immersed in violence. All types of violence, and it takes its toll. It influences my behaviors and my orientation. So the shadow work is extremely important for me. To work with those really, really deep wounds. Transgressions when I was a little boy, and those complexes. That Jung and my great teacher Richard Bachok worked with me on. Those complexes. it's a lifetime journey. One of the things I feel energetically, to a great degree these days, is connected to all that. And so I think I talked about it last time, how it's a razor's edge of walking, that really, in the Buddhist, kind of school of thought, the middle way. One side for me is like, rage, and violence, and said once, I am, my orientation is I am, how did he put it? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. Mobilized. My triggers get mobilized, and I indulge them. And then the other side of the razor, the middle way, is the peaceful, spiritual, love and light, orthodoxy of positive thinking, energetically, I don't want to say non-existent, but there's it feels like an absence of embodiment, I think is the best way to put it. Embodied. And so, that person with that orientation, is the opposite of like the person with the rage. It's very easily victimized. Actually, both sides are very easily victimized, but I think you get what I'm talking about. The doormat. On one side, you got a doormat. Who might justify them being, a doormat, in their own mind and their own heart, because it's, that significantly reinforced spiritual thing of being, nonviolent and peaceful and whatnot. And that's a struggle, between those two polarities, so it's a middle path. And particularly in these times when there are a lot of really sinister forces really trying to, are attacking us, I think it's really important to not, be a doormat, but as well not to get caught up in the rage, which might, have a similar, but opposite detrimental effect, damaging. Another thing I was thinking on the way up there is really interesting, how sometimes like really powerful things, not sometimes, all the time, come through even, popular media, popular culture. And there was this film you're probably familiar with, it's an Orlando Bloom vehicle, Kingdom of Heaven, and he's one of the orders of the Templar Knights, but I don't know if he was a Templar or not. But anyway, they had that oath that they took, be without fear in the face of thy enemy. Be brave and upright that God might love thee. Always speak the truth, even if it leads to your death. Safeguard the helpless and the innocent and do no wrong. That is your oath. And, even though that might be something that came from a popular culture instance or vehicle or example, it does not detract from the power and the glory of those words, because they ultimately came from the power and the glory of the good and the true and the beautiful. And that's, the prayer for strength, the prayer for impeccability is really about embodying those great virtues, and the good and the true and the beautiful. And, to anchor those things in this realm, in this time, in this place. Because ultimately, that's what will triumph. It might not happen in my lifetime, but I have consummate faith, ultimate faith in the good and the true and the beautiful. I have held that, or I have been allowed to hold that, many times. And it reaffirms my faith at a very, very visceral level, that embodiment. And so don't lose hope, don't lose faith. I stand here on this promontory, this great altar of healing and freedom, not only for myself in my practice of self-care, but also as a prayer for this realm and all the beings here. The stone people, the plant people, the creepy crawlers, the two-legged, the four-legged, the finned, the furred, the winged ones, the great mountains, the sacred waters, the deep jungles and valleys, the star nations, all my relations. Ahomatakiyas. My offerings blew away.